Xtalks is the industry leader in connecting life science, food, healthcare, and medical device professionals. The Xtalks Life Science podcast features insightful conversations with industry experts about all things pharma, biotech, and more.
Hello and welcome to the Xtalks Life Science Podcast. My name is Vera, editor-in-chief at Xtalks.com, and this week I'm delighted to introduce a special guest on the show. We have with us Dr. Robert Den, Chief Medical Officer at Alpha Tau Medical, a company that was founded in 2016. Alpha Tau's goal is to bring innovative, highly potent alpha radiation technology to cancer patients around the world. Dr. Den specializes in radiation oncology and conducts research across a broad variety of malignancies. He serves as an associate professor and a clinical practitioner at Jefferson University. As a leading expert and accomplished clinician in the field, Dr. Den is responsible for furthering the company's clinical and research operations. Dr. Den received his medical degree from Harvard Medical School in 2006. Now, to hear more about Alpha Tau Medical's innovative radiation technology, let's turn to Dr. Den now. Thank you so much, Dr. Den, for being on the show today.
Thank you much for having me.
Great. So to start us off, could you share your journey to becoming the Chief Medical Officer at Alpha Tau Medical and what inspired you to take on this role?
So thank you so much again for having me on the show. So my journey into a chief medical role at Alpha Tau was kind of circuitous. I was previously a full-time academic radiation oncologist at Jefferson. I was running a lab and seeing patients and very involved in both preclinical as well as clinical trials. And really, I had a desire to try to help people on an even larger scale. So what I wanted to be able to do was to try to direct treatment across not only the US, but across the worldwide landscape. And really, Alpha Tau presented me with a novel, innovative technology that I thought really had an amazing potential. And really, the challenge was to try to pragmatize that potential and really bring it to the patients. And so I saw this opportunity at Alpha Tau as Chief Medical Officer as another step in my own personal growth, both as a physician, but also in terms of career. And I saw it as the opportunity now to not just be able to have that one-on-one direct patient care or not even helping patients within my community, but really to help patients worldwide in battling a very, very complex disease, which we colloquially call cancer.
And could you share what are the missions and goals of Alpha Tau Medical?
Sure. So our mission and our company is really mission driven in that we are trying to both eradicate local cancer and also improve the overall quality of life and well-being for patients. So we see our product as having a unique niche in that we've seen that this product not only is more efficacious, especially against tumors that have previously been resistant to traditional therapies, but also not causing an undue or unnecessary amount of toxicity or burden from the treatment. So our treatment is one in which the patients can receive it in one sitting, like surgery, but the benefit is that they can actually go home in most cases on the same day of the procedure and be around their loved ones and spend their time with their family, which is really the ultimate goal for any kind of cancer treatment. We want to make sure that the patients are able to get back to living their normal lives as seamlessly and as quickly as possible.
Great. And I'm just wondering, could you share the story behind the company's name? I know the goal of the company is to bring innovative alpha radiation technology, but why was the company called Alpha Tau Medical?
Excellent question, Vera. So Alpha Tau, as you alluded to, the alpha part of it is from the technology that we are utilizing. So in the world of radiation, there are three types of radiation particles that exist: alpha, beta, and gamma. And the vast majority of physicians in the US, but across the world, use either gamma or beta radiation. alpha radiation really hasn't been utilized because it has some inherent flaws that we as a company have been able to overcome. And I'll explain that to you subsequently. But the alpha part of the name is because of that. The tau, actually, you would think we may be a Greek fraternity, but actually, tau is an acronym for Tel Aviv University. So this technology was actually started in Israel at Tel Aviv University as a joint project between two great pillars and scholars in the academic medical field who are now professor emeritus. One is Professor Yitzchak Kelsen, who is a nuclear physicist, and the other is Professor Yona Kesari, who is an immunologist. And really, the two of them together put forward this technology that we as a company have then taken to the commercial setting. And in honor and in tribute to them, we named the company Alpha Tau, alpha being the type of radiation, tau, the recognition that it all stemmed from Tel Aviv University.
Great. And now shifting to the radiation oncology field in general, in your opinion, what are the current challenges in radiation oncology?
So it's funny, this question can be asked in multiple generations and multiple decades. And I think we always come back to the same type of answers. So, one of the major challenges in radiation oncology is to balance between delivering an effective dose with not subjecting the patients to undue burden or toxicity. This is especially acute in the setting of recurrent tumors, especially in patients that have already received prior radiation therapy. This is also very important in older patients. We know that cancer tends to affect the elderly. And unfortunately, those patients have less reserve to withstand some of the toxicities that traditional cancer therapy entails. So within radiation oncology, we are always working towards improving the therapeutic index, meaning giving the most effective therapy, whereas minimizing the toxicity to the patient. And so with the alpha tau product, with the Alpha Dart, we're really able to merge those two ideas where we can give alpha radiation, which is a much more potent form of radiation therapy. It's much more effective in that it can be used and is very effective in that recurrent setting. But the beauty of this technology is that because we actually place the radiation directly inside the tumor, we're able to spare the normal healthy tissue to a much greater degree than traditional radiation therapy can.
Can you elaborate a little bit more about how Alpha Tau's medical technology works and how does it differ again from traditional radiation therapy?
It would be my pleasure. So the Alpha Tau technology works by the introduction of a radiopharmaceutical directly into the tumor. So essentially what we do is we start with a inert, biocompatible stainless steel or titanium seed. So it's essentially a piece of metal that you could put inside the body that will not cause any allergic or inflammation with the placement of that material there, like most patients have if they have a knee replacement or a hip replacement. Now, what we do is on that specific inert seed, we coat it with a radiopharmaceutical, radium-224. So you can imagine that it's like taking a vanilla ice cream and dipping it into chocolate. So the outside of the ice cream is the chocolate rim, whereas the inside is that inert vanilla. And so essentially what happens is when we take this seed, which we've now charged with radium-224, and we place it directly inside the tumor itself. And we can do this either using direct visualization or using advanced imaging. We place it into the tumor, and then what will happen is naturally, radium is an unstable element, meaning it will undergo what's called radioactive decay. So that decay process releases alpha radiation and enables the radium to decay to its daughter atom radon and continue that decay process until it gets to stable lead-208. And this process releases alpha particles inside the tumor itself. Now, the beauty and the amazement of this technology is that The alpha particles themselves naturally can only travel between 40 or 90 micron. So essentially only a couple of cell layers before they stop naturally. In order for the product to be able to be clinically meaningful is by relying on the movement of the atoms themselves, those daughter atoms. We actually are able to propagate the radiation dose further and further away, such that now with our technology, we can create an alpha cloud of dose several millimeters from where we put that initial seed. And that is a scale by which physicians can utilize it to actually treat um, cancer in a very meaningful way. Now, the interesting thing about our product is that we actually, because the radiation is being spread not by the movement of energy, but rather by the movement of these atoms, we actually see that the dose falls off much more sharply in normal tissue. So we see less toxicity in normal tissue because the amount of radiation is very limited to just the area where we place it. Whereas in tumors, the radiation can spread much more because tumors have unique properties in that they outgrow their blood supply, they have leaky blood supplies, they have differences in interstitial pressure. This is all very convoluted scientific jargon to mean that the microenvironment of the tumor actually works to trap these atoms within itself, and therefore the atoms can spread further, and therefore we can actually get a much bigger effect in the tumor, whereas we're sparing that normal tissue. And traditional radiation therapy cannot do that because it relies on the movement of actual energy, and the energy moves exactly the same whether it's in tumors or whether it's in normal tissue.
I see. And could you share like which types of cancers have shown probably the most promising results with Alpha Tau's medical technology?
So it would be my pleasure. It's actually unique in that we have found in our preclinical lab, in testing this across hundreds of different tumor types, is we have yet to find a tumor type that is resistant to alpha radiation therapy. So this is a product that is able to be used uniformly across any localized solid tumor. The other interesting thing about the product is we've seen the same results across different patient populations. So we've done trials in the United States, we've done trials in Europe, we've done trials in Israel, we've done trials in Japan, and we are consistently getting the same results across different patient populations. A lot of times with different drugs, we know that there can be specific mutations that only certain populations have that allow them to be effective. Whereas with this type of technology, because it is causing a effect at a very, very basic level, this is something that is shared across different populations. So this allows for a universality to it. However, for every single patient that we treat, we actually generate and design a personalized treatment plan for that patient. So every patient is getting a treatment plan specific to them. Currently, we are treating patients with recurrent skin cancer. We are treating patients with recurrent lung cancer. We're treating patients with pancreatic cancer. We're treating patients with metastatic colorectal cancer, prostate cancer, with trials now opening up for brain cancer, breast cancer. So as you can see, we're treating patients across the different spectrums. And we actually are treating patients with metastatic disease because we see that our product is actually able to awaken or augment the immune system even further than what is currently available. So we see a huge diversity in the patients that we can treat and a huge versatility to the product itself.
And how do you envision Alpha Tau's medical's technology impacting the patient journey from diagnosis to treatment?
So I think really where we will have the greatest impact on patients is providing them new alternatives in their therapies. So what we see our initial foray into the space is in the late stage patients, the patients with recurrent disease, the patients with metastatic disease. But as we continue to provide more and more evidence on both the safety and efficacy side, we see Alpha Tau as being a technology that can be used in the frontline setting for patients. And the beauty of this technology is because it is a single treatment experience, it puts a very low burden on the patient. one of the challenges with traditional radiation therapy is that patients have to come in multiple times a week for multiple weeks in order to receive their treatment. Here, we're able to do the procedure in one sitting, and the patients can go home with everything in place and resume their normal life as quickly as possible.
Great. And could you share some recent news from the company?
Surely. So we actually just announced today that we are going to be presenting our latest updates in the treatment of patients with pancreatic disease at the annual ASCO, which is the American Society of Clinical Oncology GI meeting in San Francisco in January. We have a lot of new trials opening up in the United States. We're opening up several new trials in different diseases. We have trials opening up across Europe, across multiple European countries, as well as in Canada.
Is there any upcoming research that we can look forward to?
Yes, so I think we're going to see a lot of breakthrough in 2025 with the Alpha DART and the Alpha Tau technology. We're going to see new trials in the setting of recurrent GBM. We plan to be launching this in the US in calendar 2025. We actually have a new trial that's now just opening up for patients who are immunocompromised. So for patients who've had, for example, organ transplants, their biggest risk of death, besides rejection of the organ, is actually cancer, squamous cell carcinoma. And that's because the patient don't have a normal immune system to monitor for this. So we are utilizing the Alpha Tau technology to try to help these patients and cure them from the cutaneous squamous cell carcinomas that they develop.
And how do you see Alpha Tau Medical contributing to the future of cancer treatment?
So I think Alpha Tau's technology can be used across different cancer types and through different cancer states. And so what I mean by that is our technology can be used for patients with focal, small, initial diseases, to large recurrences, to combination with standard therapy, to utilization in the metastatic setting, especially as we get more and more of the ability to unlock the immune system. The Alpha Tau technology has been able to synergize with current standard immunotherapy, which is a very big and important topic in oncology. And so we see that we can use our technology across different cancer types and through different cancer states to really be a versatile product in the armamentarium for cancer treatment. We know that cancer is really done best in the multidisciplinary setting when you bring different experts together and bring all of the important support staff with that as well. Because as we are able to change cancer from being a diagnosis of unfortunate death to a diagnosis where people can survive for longer and longer with their diagnosis, we are incumbent as physicians to make the technology better, both in terms of more efficacious, but also in terms of more tolerable and safe for the patients. And so Alpha Tau is really uniquely positioned for this endeavor.
Great. And now more, I guess, I wouldn't call it advice, but kind of more insights from your own career. What lessons from your career would you share with aspiring leaders in the biotech and medical industries?
Yeah, so I think it's really important to talk with and listen to patients and hear their journeys and hear what is important to them, what's meaningful to them, and what drives them. And because what I've found in my career is that it's unique and different for each and every individual patient. And so for some patients, their main drive is efficacy, and they will be willing to accept all levels of toxicity, all levels of burden, all levels of discomfort with the idea of being cured from their disease. Whereas other patients really want more of a balanced approach. They, of course, want to be cured of their disease, but they also understand that the risk may not be worth the reward if the reward is not a guarantee. And unfortunately, in oncology, we can't really guarantee much. So I think it's crucial to really think about and integrate the patient voice in clinical trial design, in thinking about the potential toxicities or side effects, and in really understanding where the need is in the patient communities, where the need is in the different tumor types, where the need is in the different patient journeys. And I think through listening and understanding the patient's voice, it makes us much more nimble and much more apt to actually adjust and to think about how the products can be positioned to maximize the patient's utility and overall quality of life. And so I think this has really been very, very important. And I think it's really been an evolution, I would say, over my career to see that something as one might think as simple as listening to the patient, but just how crucial this is and how previously in medicine we really, unfortunately, weren't as attuned to it as we should have been.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Dan, for being on the show today. I really appreciate your time for this insightful discussion.
Thank you so much. It's really been a pleasure.
And that's the end of this week's episode of the Xtalks Life Science Podcast. If you liked today's show, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Thank you, everyone, and see you next week. Bye.
To join the Xtalks community, visit xtalks.com and register for exclusive access to curated content like live webinars, news articles, and educational videos. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the speakers sharing them and should not be taken as professional advice, nor do they necessarily reflect the policy or position of Honeycomb Worldwide. For further information, email us at podcast@xtalks.com.